Giving birth is the miracle of life. It's amazing when a young mother starts out the new phase of their life together with a child and becomes one themselves. Normally, their newborn child isn't expecting to be mommy instantly too. Brace yourself. This is going to be one of the craziest stories you've ever heard. In 2010, a baby was born with another baby inside its stomach, and a young woman arrived at Queen Elizabeth Hospital in eMystery District, Hong Kong. She was pregnant and getting ready to start her new family. The date was already present and she was prepared for a life-changing experience. She was beginning to go through the same set of circumstances that mothers have been going through since the dawn of human history: contractions, labor pains, and the anticipation of what she had been preparing for over 9 months now. Now, if she was going to be a mother, and in any other circumstance, this would be just one more beautiful birth among many. But if you already clicked on this link and started up the video, then you know that this trip to the hospital wasn't going to end in the usual way. As anybody who's ever been pregnant will likely be able to tell you, pregnancy can be a very unpredictable experience. Medical technology has come a long way, even in the last century, but there are still so many mysteries about the human body and about the human pregnancy that baffle doctors, even to this day, to help ensure that the newborn comes into the world as healthy as possible and as happily as possible. Few more checkups are conducted to ensure that the little one is growing up inside mommy without any serious complications. This young mother from Hong Kong went through the same checkups, and what they found was startling. The fetus was found to have a mass growing within its abdomen between its kidney and liver. At first, doctors and obstetricians assumed that this mysterious mass was a teratoma, a type of tumor. But although we already said that the event was startling, that didn't immediately mean that it was tragic. A pregnancy doesn't always go smoothly, and there may always be a chance of some kind of procedure that may be required in order to ensure that the happy family gets a good start. Consider the cesarean section. As an example, when the examiners found the mass growing in the fetus, they were fully prepared to perform a complicated operation on the baby after birth to remove the tumor, and if the operation was a success and all went well, mother and baby had a good experience and can head on home and enjoy growing up together. Now, this is probably a good time as any to interrupt and point out that what we are about to tell you not only has quite a lot of medical terminology in it, but will probably make references to a lot of, shall we say, unique medical phenomena. Certainly not the kind of stuff most people will hear about in their daily lives. So, if you consider yourself to be the squeamish type, you might want to consider putting your breakfast aside and save it for a little later before continuing. In fact, maybe just go ahead and put it in the fridge right now. You might not be needing it for the rest of the day. Anyway, back to the story first. There was the birth itself, which went about as expected. No serious complications, nothing to worry about, and the young mother ended up giving birth to a beautiful young baby girl. But then came the operation itself. The condition was brought to the attention of Dr. Yu Kai Man, a surgeon and specialist in obstetrics and gynecology at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital and a former professor at the university in Hong Kong. Once the baby was 3 weeks old and there was less risk of causing injury to a newborn, he was grading the little one for surgery, fully expecting to find a tumor within which would be easily removable, but what he instead found inside probably shocked every single person in that room. The mass between the baby's liver and kidneys in his abdomen was in fact not a tumor, but rather it was in fact 2 other fetuses. This baby was found to be carrying 2 more babies, as Dr. Yu Kai Man explained in the February 2015 edition of the Hong Kong Medical Journal. It was a very unexpected but easy mistake to make. There is a term for fetus developing another fetus inside of it within the womb, or even after birth. It's called fetus in fetu, and it's one of the greatest mysteries of obstetrics and childbirth. Part of the mystery is caused by the fact that it's so rare. It's estimated that only 1 in 500,000 pregnancies experience fetus in fetu, and there have only been 200 reported cases in reputable medical literature to explain it as simply as possible. When the cells to create a new life begin in the mother's uterus, they usually latch onto the uterine wall and grow into a fully fledged baby. And if there just so happen to be differing cells for 2 different babies that will eventually develop into twins or more, it's usually expected that they will latch onto different portions of the womb, develop a placental connection, and start growing into wonderful little miracles. But the operative word is usually, and a lot could happen inside the uterus. In rare instances, the cells that develop into a fetus don't connect to the uterine wall, sometimes simply by chance, sometimes because there might be a complication with the fetus and the body rejects it. But as we said, in a very rare few numbers of cases, the cells can actually be absorbed by the cells of a neighboring fetus. That's right, one future baby can actually take the cells of another growing baby into its own body, before either of them is even fully formed, and once the second baby is inside, it'll either attempt to create a placental connection and feed off the first baby, or it'll fail and simply stop growing. In most cases, the cells simply become a part of the first baby growing into its body and simply developing the child further. Once it's born, there's no indication that anything even took place. But we're pretty sure by this point, you already know that this is not most cases. Once the team of surgeons operated on their 3-week-old baby from Hong Kong, they got to visually confirm what the mysterious mass was for the first time. Not only was it a fetus growing inside the 3-week-old baby, but was in fact two fetuses. It's one of the only times in recorded human history of such an event involving two extra fetuses ever taking place. Dr. Yukai Man was quoted as saying it was almost impossible to detect during the prenatal checkup as the embryo inside the baby was too small. It wasn't until after the surgery that there was any indication that the cells inside of the baby were actually two entirely different fetuses. In most situations like this, it's easier for doctors to assume that the growth is a specific type of tumor called a teratoma. Basically, a teratoma is a collection of cells that have bunched up into a lump of bodily tissue. The difference between this sort of growth and a fetal growth is that the growth of a teratoma isn't organized and will never develop into a living baby. The cells used to create the teratoma can grow into anything: muscles, hair, even teeth. Hopefully, you took our advice on putting away your breakfast before listening to this. In this case, however, when the baby's abdomen was checked, surgeons found the presence of two developing fetuses complete with spines, limbs, and intestines. Their genders could even be identified. If they were boys, they even had umbilical cords connected to a single placental mass attached to the baby. These were definitely not simple masses of biomaterial, although it was still extremely unlikely that the two fetuses would continue to grow to term. They were nevertheless beginning to develop into human babies. Dr. Yukai Man took this opportunity to make one thing perfectly clear. Even though most people refer to this story as a baby being born already pregnant, that isn't exactly what happened here, since it is impossible for little girl to have conceived the pregnancy on her own. Dr. Yo said in the same Hong Kong medical journal, the fertilization of the twin fetuses, of course, belongs to her parents, which has gone to the wrong place. We can hardly argue with the expert. After all, a pregnancy, in the usual sense, is the result of the fertilization between a man and women, which we don't think it should be hard to say definitely didn't happen with this little wonder. Strictly speaking, what actually happened was that the young mother was going to end up with triplets, 1 girl and 2 boys. However, due to an extremely unlikely medical marvel, the 2 boys were randomly absorbed by the developing body of their sister and became imbued inside of her abdomen. In this way, rather than a pregnancy, it's actually an event more similar to a parasitic twin. This is simply the first instance that we know of it in which it was more like parasitic triple. We like to think of the miracle of birth as a beautiful experience, and don't get us wrong, it is. But that doesn't change the fact that the reason why so many medical practitioners get involved is because it is an event in which so many things could go wrong and require constant medical supervision. However, we've come a long way from the days of birth being an affair between a mother and a midwife. Nowadays, with prenatal care and top-quality surgical knowledge, more can be done to ensure that a baby's first steps in life are going to be the best. Because of that, we hope that despite hearing about some pretty wild stuff coming out this hospital in Hong Kong, we can leave you with this happy ending. Both mother and baby were doing just fine, and only 8 days after the operation, they were able to be discharged from the hospital and head on home, safe and sound. Can you imagine going through something like this? What's the most astounding pregnancy story to ever happen in your life? Let us know in the comments below, and be sure to hit that like button to keep this video subscribed and hit that bell icon. It really helps us out.